Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and this is a topic that I should have discussed back during the whole Sekiro controversy, but it is also one that is now seeming to rear its head once again on social media and in traditional games journalism sites like Ars Technica, so I thought I would take some time to actually discuss it myself. A fair warning, this won't be the usual facts first then opinions. This entire video is basically just my opinion, my take on the whole easy mode argument being waged within the gaming world. However, I'll still post links to everything I use that is publicly available down in the description below. Now, I mentioned Ars Technica specifically because of a recent article written by an old frenemy of mine that goes by Kyle Orland. Now, I won't bother picking apart the article itself, as I don't think that would be very fair over an opinion being expressed, even if I do see that opinion as being disingenuous and misguided, but there are a couple of key elements being discussed here that I think are important enough to offer up some clarity for some people. Now, as I said, most of this really came about during the whole Sekiro controversy surrounding an easy mode option within a video game that was purpose-built to be difficult. Some argued that an easy mode would not detract from the player experience of those that chose to play on harder difficulties, while others argued that it would detract from the creative vision and the artistic integrity of the game. Now, a lot of the Sekiro controversy was kicked off by the Twitter user Fetusberry in response to PC Gamer's James Davenport posting an article titled, "I beat Sekiro's final boss with cheats and I feel fine." Now, that Twitter post read, "You cheated not only the game, but yourself. You didn't grow, you didn't improve, you took a shortcut and gained nothing. You experienced a hollow victory, nothing was risked, and nothing was gained. It's sad that you don't know the difference." Now, this kicked off a war waged mostly on the part of traditional games media against gamers, downplaying it as nothing more than an arrogant get-good statement and propping themselves and each other's up as being morally superior, as this article by Vivek Gohil on Eurogamer titled "Sekiro, Difficulty, Challenge, and Empathy" showed us. It's also worth noting that this was one of the early examples of traditional games media conflating game difficulty with accessibility. And then we have Kyle Orland with his article, "Every Game Should Copy Death Stranding's Very Easy Mode," which discusses how Death Stranding will have a difficulty mode that is, per Kojima, designed for moviegoers, and the article itself is written with Orland's typical nose-in-the-air attitude towards gamers themselves. And of course, this has naturally reignited those that decry gamers as being quote-unquote ableist for not wanting a game mode such as this. And I disagree with Kyle Orland and the rest of games media in this for a couple of different reasons. Now first, if a developer wishes to include such a mode, I think they should be free to do so. They've taken it upon themselves to craft their game around that, and if that's the case, then by all means go nuts. But conversely, if a developer has chosen not to do that, then they absolutely should not be forced by games media, or anyone else for that matter, into including it. And there's a very important reason for that, because yes, it does very much run the risk of impacting the artistic vision of the game. You see, difficulty modes are not as simple as a lot of people lend themselves to believe, at least in many cases. In quite a few games, difficulty modes are nothing more than hit points and damage sliders, making the player's character take more damage or have less health overall, while at the same time making opponents more bullet spongy in one fashion or another. It's quite common to see this, in fact, even with modern games, but the more carefully crafted games take far more into account than just simple sliders. Income rates get adjusted, experience points being earned get tweaked and rebalanced, item drops, quality of items received, commonality of items being dropped, rarity of items, how often health or armor is placed within a level. All of it's carefully balanced for each concurrent difficulty level, which all of that takes time and, more importantly, proper planning in order to get the balance just right, which also includes a large amount of play testing as well. It's not as simple a process as people tend to believe. Quite the opposite, actually. Easy modes tend to be, ironically enough, somewhat difficult to implement well within many games. And as that is the case, I don't think it proper to attempt to force developers into requiring the creation of an additional play mode if it wasn't within their scope to do so. And then we have the game's Journos and many others that are of a certain ideological opinion that a difficulty mode equates to accessibility, which could not be further from the truth. Of course, I can't say with any kind of certainty why they did this, but to my mind, there are only two clear options. The first being complete and utter ignorance, the other being a malicious attempt to paint any gamers that disagree as ableist to some degree or another. In all honesty, I think that in some cases it was a little bit of both. Accessibility is not the same as difficulty. Accessibility is options. It is the color deficiency modes that we see within some games. It is special controllers. It is the ability to see or interact within the game than are standard due to physical limitations. It has nothing whatsoever to do with adjusting the difficulty of the game. And the fact of the matter is, and I'll admit this could be coming from within my own little bubble of the internet, but most of the disabled individuals that I've heard from on this topic not only don't want an easy mode, but they actively hate people that think that that is something that they actually want. Take, for example, the video footage that has been on your screen, which comes from the YouTube channel Limitless Squad, and the video titled Disabled Quadriplegic shows why Sekiro doesn't need an easy mode. You see, this is important because those people that want an easy mode for this exact thing, whether well-intentioned or no, because some of them are actually coming from a place of genuine desire to see games become more accessible, are failing to take into consideration that what they are advocating for is actually a form of looking down on disabled gamers. It is saying, you can't do this unless we dumb the game down for you, which is very much not the case. And the forced inclusion of an easy mode does infringe on the creative freedom of the game's design. Not only that, it takes away from the amount of time the developers have to work on the game that could be better spent on other aspects. Yes, an easy mode is optional, but the effect on the overall design of the game in order to accommodate such a feature most certainly is not. And ultimately, it will have no effect whatsoever on whether the game has accessibility options or not, and journalists really should, in my humble opinion, stop conflating the two because they are completely different topics and should remain as such. Now, earlier today on Twitter, I was sent a quote that is commonly misattributed to Winston Churchill that I said I would steal for this video, and so I shall. That quote is, "Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen." So many people on both sides are well-meaning and well-intentioned enough. Some want an easy mode in more games because they don't enjoy games being difficult, and that's fine. Also, people want more accessibility for different forms of disabilities, which is laudable and something I will always support in any way that I can. But this is also an argument that is beyond ridiculous because it has engaged the activists on the internet who are never capable of expressing the intellectual courage to stop and actually really listen to what the other side is saying. And the same goes for many people arguing against easy modes being in more games as well. Of course, as with everything, many of those advocating for an easy mode strive for it to be in all games regardless of creative vision or design choice, again failing to understand or outright ignore the fact that this does alter the design of the game for other difficulties as well, which, even to a very slight degree, is still an alteration. Not all games need an easy mode. Respect the choices of the developers in that regard. Not every game will be crafted for the casual gamer in mind, nor should it be. However, I do absolutely agree that accessibility options should be included in as many games as possible. That, at least, should be something everyone should agree on. But of course I know we won't. This is the internet after all. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and I'll see you next time.